Welcome and thank you for participating in the 2020 Virtual Real Estate Conference hosted by the City of Vaughan's Economic and Cultural Development Department in cooperation and in partnership with the Vaughan Chamber of Commerce. We are proud to work alongside the Vaughan Chamber of Commerce in our shared mission to promote local businesses and support their success and vital contribution to Vaughan's strong economy. Today's event provides us with an opportunity to engage in meaningful discussion about the impact of COVID-19 on Vaughan's real estate market. You will hear from leading industry experts on some of the key city initiatives that are underway. These include the city's comprehensive citywide review of the zoning bylaw, which regulates land use and development standards, and the launch of the new digital and interactive vacant employment land directory. Despite the universal challenges presented by COVID-19, Vaughan remains a city that is in demand. Our golden decade continues to shine brightly, thanks to people like you. With more than 19,000 businesses that employ more than 225,000 people, Vaughan has the talent, resources, networks, and transportation connections to help companies of all sizes grow. Vaughan is reaching unrivaled heights as a rapidly emerging marketplace, rich with investment opportunity. In the last 5 years, the Vaughan Metropolitan Center, our emerging downtown core, has attracted more than $9 billion in economic activity, with much of this rooted in unprecedented construction projects that are building a growing skyline with new business and residential developments. In fact, Council has approved the development of more than 10,800 new residential units within the Vaughan Metropolitan Center. We have experienced a significant shift in how business is being done here at home and around the world. As COVID-19 persists, the City of Vaughan remains committed to helping entrepreneurs pursue their aspirations, reach their goals, and achieve economic prosperity. City building is successful when professionals in every field come together to create something truly spectacular. You each play an important role in this process, and I want to express my warmest and sincerest gratitude to you for supporting our city's growing urban landscape. Thank you for helping to lay the foundation for a promising future for all.
Vaughan's growth over the last decade has defied all expectations, and through the work of entrepreneurs, political leaders, and city staff, we have a vision for growth that will unleash Vaughan's potential in the next few years. We can see through the VMC, the Vaughan Metropolitan Center, investment and growth in our transit subway infrastructure, increased population, and employment opportunities. Vaughan has become an attractive market for many. And I'd like to thank our sponsors in helping make today's event possible. Without you, we couldn't do great events like this. Our presenting sponsor and a longtime friend and supporter of the Vaughan Chamber, she's always there for us when we need her, Vivian Reeci, your Community Realty, Royal LePage. We have our Toronto Regional Real Estate Board supporters, and they're our keynote sponsor, and our community sponsor, Mortgage Alliance Commercial. I'd also like to recognize City of Vaughan Councillor Sandra Young-Rocco, who is in attendance. And I'd also like to acknowledge the attendance of Vaughan Chamber board members, Peter Sandika, President of Sterol, an infection control product, and Rajni Tekkerwal, President of Rajni Tekkerwal Law Professional Corporation. And I want to thank everyone on here today. I was so impressed to learn that throughout the next 2 days, we'll have over 400 people joining us. And that's a testament to the great work of my team, led by Abdus and Jennifer, for this real estate summit, and their partnership with the city's ECDEV, Economic Development and Cultural Department, and Planning Departments that spearheaded the effort to bring you this forum. And before I turn over the mic, I encourage you all to join us next Wednesday, November 18th, for the Business Achievement Awards, where we'll celebrate business excellence. And we've already sold over 400 tickets, so it should be a really great event. You can still get tickets. And December 1st, with Mark Falbo for our CEO Speaker Series. Mark is the President and CEO of MIRCOM and the Chair of the Mackenzie Health Cordalucci Hospital. So I hope we'll see you there. You can find information under the events section of our homepage at vaughnchamber.ca. Today, we'll have many great discussions about the potential of real estate in Vaughan. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Matthew Ablacan, our MC and moderator. We've known each other a long time, Matthew, so really pleased you're able to lead today's activities. And of course, Matthew is from Millennials Choice. So Matthew, over to you to kick us off. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Brian. So happy Thursday, everyone. Good morning. My name is Matthew Ablacan. I am the owner and founder of the Millennials Choice group of companies, and I am super excited to be your MC and your moderator for this virtual summit. This is going to be an exciting conversation about a city that's growing at a rapid pace. I've personally been a resident of the City of Vaughan for 21 years. It's home for us. It's also home to our business. And the discussions today will cover real estate with a macro view on the industrial, commercial, and residential side. Our keynote speakers and panelists will discuss the real estate market as it was prior to COVID, where we are now, and based on current trends, what the post-COVID landscape could look like. Today's event would not be possible without the partnership and support of the City of Vaughan. I want to emphasize that the opportunities within Vaughan are limitless. Under the provincial growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, the Vaughan Metropolitan Centre, known as VMC, growth plan is considered one of the most anticipated master plan communities. The VMC is an emerging downtown poised to be the financial, innovation, and cultural center of Vaughan. So major corporations and thousands of new residents are choosing downtown Vaughan because it's the perfect balance between downtown Toronto and the Greater Toronto region. No other locations offer this blend of subway and rapid bus transit with equal access to downtown and the suburbs, Class A office space, and an urban lifestyle. As a result, this hub at Highways 400 and 407 is growing faster than expected. It's on track to meet or exceed targets for residential units, office space, and new retail space well ahead of schedule. And the pace hasn't slowed down during the pandemic. Right now, the Vaughan Metropolitan Centre is a hotbed of construction activity, and new development applications are still coming in. To learn more, please visit myvmc.ca. And I can testify to the ongoing construction because our office is right beside all of the construction. Now, some housekeeping. This event is being recorded and will be made available post-conference. There is a Q&A feature that is accessible to all attendees. So everyone currently watching is able to submit a question. If questions submitted are relevant to you as well, you can upvote a question. Following each keynote/panel discussion, we will have 10 minutes allocated for Q&A, at which point we will try to answer as many questions as possible. Now, without further ado, I'd like to welcome our first speaker for the conference, Mark Christenbaum, Vice President of Sales at Colliers International. Over the course of Mark's career at Colliers, he has closely worked with large tenants and landlords in the North York and Vaughan markets. Mark is a systematic problem solver, a strategic closer, and a highly motivated and dialed-in industrial real estate professional. Mark and his team, Monica Gauthier and Christine Blair, are equipped with in-depth market knowledge, strategic planning, relationship building, client management, strong negotiation skills, and in-depth market knowledge. Mark provides his clients with sustainable solutions designed to maximize value in their real estate transactions. Mark has worked with a wide array of warehousing, distribution, 3PL, and manufacturing companies, assisting clients with relocation, expansion, lease renewals, and consultation services. Mark, great to have you here. I turn it over to you.
Thanks for that intro. Thank you very much, Matthew. Really appreciate that. And good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Very excited to be here as a panelist this morning. Thank you so much to the City of Vaughan and Vaughan Chamber of Commerce for having me here as a presenter. I very much look forward to presenting our insights on the current marketplace for the commercial markets and how COVID-19 may or may have not affected some asset classes. So I'm just going to share my screen here. And we're going to go view full screen mode. Okay, can everybody see that presentation? Matthew, can I just get a yes, I can see that from you?
Yes, we can see that.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, so Here's our agenda of what we're going to be talking about today, but we're going to get right into it. Past, present, and future. So where has our market been? Where are we now? And where do we see the trends moving to? So we're going to start off on the industrial market. So since 2016, and on this graph, it's showing metrics for 2017, our industrial market has been booming year over year over year. And there's two main reasons for that. Number one, there's surging demand on the industrial market for new product, and we have a severe supply problem and a heavy shortage of product. Number two, we're a mass consumption market. So whether it's food, e-commerce, online shopping, pharma, medical, for example, these companies need to keep up with our consumerism demands. Therefore, year after year, we see significant absorption of industrial and don't have enough supply to support the demand. So on this slide, just really briefly, I want to look at industrial building sales. So this is across the whole GTA from Burlington all the way to Whitby. So in 2017 Q1, we were sitting at about $110 average. Some core markets like Vaughan and North York, the average was higher. Keep in mind, this is an average of the whole GTA. Only 10 quarters later, in Q3 2019, the prices doubled to about $200 a square foot. And now we're sitting at about a $230 per square foot average across the whole GTA. So these are huge numbers. Why have we gotten so high? There's a couple of reasons. Number one, industrial is very hard to find. Individuals, landlords, vendors don't want to sell. And secondly, for smaller bay product, say 20 to 30,000 square feet, you can't build it. To buy land, pay development charges, I should say, buy land and find the land, pay development charges, pay your hard and soft construction costs, it gets very expensive. So may as well pay a premium for something existing and still save a little bit of money. The Greater Toronto Area is the fourth largest market in North America. It's massive for the industrial market. So there's about 900 million square feet of industrial inventory, and we are the tightest market from an availability and vacancy perspective. So right now, our market is hovering around the 1% vacancy mark, and we have been since 2019. Again, demand for industrial, very low supply. So with low availability and vacancy rates, you can see on the graph below, Q1 2017, rental rates were sitting at around $6 average across the GTA. They have skyrocketed 10 quarters later to about $10 per square foot net. So through all of this, you can see in the last 3 quarters, the pandemic really has not affected industrial whatsoever. It's been on fire, and we see that trend to continue. What's coming down the pipeline in the future? Well, what's positive is we have a lot of product coming on stream in 2021. In the later years, we are falling short of keeping up with development and demand. To keep up with the colossal demand in the GTA market, we need supply. So this is critical and very important to our market. So to keep up with that demand, if I was to quantify it, we need to build about 2% of our total industrial inventory every year. That's about 18 million square feet. We have struggled to build 18 million square feet over 10 years. And why? So I'm going to keep going back to this statement. To find land, to buy land at the prices today, to pay development charges, and to pay construction costs are expensive. On the next slide, here are some industrial developments that are going to be completed at the end of this year and coming up in 2021 and some in 2022. So the office market, what's happening in the office world in the GTA? So 2 questions that clients always ask me are, 1, is the office market challenged right now and taking a hit? And number 2, are more employees working from home? The answer is yes. The short answer is yes, I should say. So on this graph, what I've shown you, actually, I'll go back for 1 second, everybody. So where the office market is challenged is not with vacancy coming on the market. It's with sublease space coming on the market. So these are leases in place, long-term, that tenants have where their employees or they've mandated a work from home environment. So they're forfeiting space or putting it on the market because they're just not using it. So what I've shown on this graph is 4 core markets in the GTA and then four core markets in the GTA and then the GTA market as a whole. So let's take a look at Q3 2020 at the tall blue line, which represents the downtown market. So this graph represents how much space is on the market on a sublease basis versus what's available. So in the downtown market, almost 40% of the total space on the market is sublease. So to put that into perspective, since March 2020, south of Bloor Street in the financial core, there's been about 2.6 million square feet of office sublease space come on the market. Those are big numbers. And in general, the office market at the end of 2019 was sitting at about 1% availability. Now we're at about 3%. That's triple in 3 quarters. We haven't seen that swing in a long time. And that obviously shows that the office market has been affected in today's pandemic. Vaughan market, what's happening in this side of the world? So Vaughan has really always been a unique market. And there's a few reasons for that. So number one, there's a subway line going right into the heart of the city. The Vaughan Metropolitan Center is a live-work community. There's exceptional highway connectivity. 407, 400 makes it easy to get to the 401. It's just a great core urban node. There's lots of new spec development coming down the pipeline in Vaughan. There's a mix of users. There's a mix of owners. So you've got a lot of pension funds, insurance companies, REITs, life cos, and you've got your private individuals as well. So it's a good mix. It's some of the most expensive real estate in the GTA for those reasons above. And we also have a very good unemployment rate, sitting at about 5.8%. So Vaughan has always been on its own island, and this is a positive way in having the reputation of being a premier commercial market for the reasons that I mentioned above. So similar to the GTA, land prices and building prices in Vaughan have skyrocketed, but Vaughan is on a different echelon. For example, right now, the average building price in Vaughan is sitting just above $250 a square foot average, and land is teetering around the $1.6 million mark. So those are big numbers, and it definitely outweighs the average of the GTA. Similar to the GTA as well, the Vaughan market is very tight from an availability and vacancy perspective on its own great island. So we did see a minor increase in vacancy and availability rates in Q2 of Q3. And we did see a bit of a decrease in rents, which you can see on the graph below. But to keep in mind, in Q1 of this year and Q4 of 2019, the vacancy rate, was sitting at about 0.6%. This is the lowest it's been in history. This is extremely low. And rents were sitting at an all-time high. So we've seen things calm down a little bit. Now, with this all being said, we do not see an upward trend in availability and vacancy because we have seen some transactions where some absorption has taken place and those numbers have gone back down. And we do not see a downward trend in rents. We think this will level off and the Vaughan industrial market is going to continue to do very well. Vaughan new developments. So Vaughan has a very healthy pipeline of new product coming in 2021. And a lot of these new builds are going to be in the 427 enterprise zone where the highway extension will be and Highway 50 corridor. The interesting thing about Vaughan development is it's very hard to get in as a new buyer. And what I mean by that is it's very hard to buy land at today's prices, pay development charges, and it's the same things that I was talking about before, hard and soft costs, et cetera. So a lot of the new developments that are coming up in Vaughan are actually from individuals who have had the land for a very long time. So they're in So their land basis on their pro forma is a very low price and not at today's prices. You can make sense of those pro forma and still become profitable as a developer. So here's some examples of some key developments, again, end of this year and 2021, and I think some phases in 2022. So happy to talk about those after the presentation today. So who's taking space right now? Why is industrial thriving? The groups that are taking space are the essential services, the food, the beverage, the pharma, and groups with low exposure to COVID-19. So what's interesting in Vaughan, I'll go back to that. Two of the largest tenants in the world have recently said that they're going to take space in the market. So Amazon just ended up doing a transaction at 50 and 51 Keys Court, which are two buildings totaling over 300,000 square feet. And Amazon will be opening a new delivery station. So that's going to be a last mile distribution center where packages will be shipped to the facility, and those packages will be delivered by Amazon Fleet directly to the consumer. Secondly, Walmart. So Walmart in 2024, the project will be completed, but will be building with Condor Properties as the landlord, a 550,000 square foot fully automated distribution center with the latest and greatest technologies. I was very fortunate to be a part of that transaction on the listing team with Condor. This DC is going to be about 100 feet clear, and it's going to have some of the latest technologies in automation for a distribution warehouse. Vaughan office snapshot. So similar to the GTA, Vaughan is having its challenges in the office market during this time. We can really see this on the graph below, which is a similar graph that I included for the whole GTA, but specific to Vaughan. In Q2 of 2020, the total availability on the market consisted of about 40% sublease space. So those are some pretty big numbers. The numbers did end up simmering down. And the reason for that is since Vaughan is a suburban community where it's not as dense as the downtown market, there is a higher probability to get employees to come to the workplace than the dense market like downtown. Now, even though there are challenges in the office market in Vaughan, there's been some great developments completed, and there's going to be some that are going to be coming down the road. We're keeping our foot on the gas here. We're still going to embellish this live-work community and build good product, because when you build good product in a good location, the employees and the workforce will come back to it. So in summary, how has COVID-19 affected real estate? Well, on the office side, there is evidence in the sublease market and evidence from talking with clients that there is, of course, more employees working from home than coming into the office. That is more prevalent in the downtown core versus suburban markets like Vaughan, Mississauga, Markham, etc. Industrial staying strong. We do not see a decline in rents. We see an increase in demand, if anything, because there's not a lot of product coming on stream. We see sale prices continuing to be strong, land prices continuing to be strong, and the market in general in the GTA to be strong. So that's a great story. Areas of loss of employment due to community via transit. So what I mean by that is in some instances, getting employees to come to their place of work has been challenging. And this is due to the comfort of them to come into the office during these times. Now, this is more challenging where employees need to come to the workplace. For example, if you have a manufacturing or a warehousing operation where those individuals need transit, there may be some more challenges in trying to get your employees to come to the office. Very last, K-shaped recovery. So what I mean by this is this pandemic is going to end in one of two ways for many companies. On the upcline, there's going to be companies who will thrive, continue to do very well. Those companies that have adapted and changed their businesses to continue to thrive will be on the upper echelon and come out on top. And unfortunately, there will be some companies who will not continue to succeed throughout this pandemic unless they change, evolve, or adapt their ways. So That's everything for this morning, and I hope that gave you a snapshot of what's happening in today's market in a sort of close, slow time frame. And I wanted to hand it over to Matthew as far as the discussion goes. And I've got my information on the next page. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to email me, call me, send me a message on LinkedIn. I'll respond, and I look forward to hearing from you. So thank you so much again.
Thank you, Mark. That was awesome. So I have a residential real estate background. So
Yep.
This is all great information for me. I'm learning just as much as I am moderating. First of all, I'm very optimistic now in the economy, seeing as how these big manufacturers are taking industrial space and looking to expand going into 2021 and the years ahead. So actually, can you speak to that a little bit? Guys and ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question, there's a Q&A feature at the bottom, just a friendly reminder. There are questions coming in, so we want to make sure we try to get through as many as we can. But please connect with Mark should you have questions that aren't answered. So I want to speak to that. What do you think is going to happen, or what are the long-term impacts COVID-19 is going to have on the industrial and commercial markets?
So what I see, Matthew, is first of all, places of opportunity. For example, there's been companies who have evolved and changed their business plan. So let's talk about PPE. So when March and April came, PPE, everybody wanted hand sanitizer, masks and gloves, you name it. So many companies actually differed from their original business plan into getting into the PPE business. And what that's caused is Canada has actually become self-sufficient in PPE equipment for a number of years for every Canadian. So whether it's hand sanitizer, masks, gloves, et cetera, we don't need to import that product for many years because we are self-sufficient. In addition, on the commercial/retail markets, where there may be some challenges coming, other asset classes can take advantage of those downfalls. So let's take big box malls, I should say big box retail and malls. There are opportunities, and this is happening in the market today, where those spaces are being converted to warehouse uses as we speak. So there will be a shift in use of asset class and opportunity.
Makes sense. I'm even noticing the signs are up around Yorkdale Mall, where there's some proposals regarding condominiums, if I'm not wrong.
That's correct.
Right. So like you said it best towards the end, where you said it's going to be up to those companies to adapt and change going forward to ensure their success. So question regarding supply chains. Are the supply chains in Canada switching as a result of COVID? So like, quote unquote, will just in time continue to play a role in the supply chain, or will impacts from COVID transition the industry to higher, like the higher inventory, the better sort of thing?
So I think, Matthew, this question bears very well to my comment about us being a mass consumption market. So supply chains right now are heavily challenged. For example, with everyone being at home, everybody wants to renovate their home and buy new accessories for their home. So for example, let's take deep freezers. So right now, people want to grocery shop less, they want to have less exposure, and they want to stock up on meats and frozen goods. To find a deep freezer right now is extremely difficult. You know, it can take months, and maybe it'll even be impossible to find, and you have to check back again. So the supply chains are definitely constrained on certain products, and I find that very interesting, and that will continue for specific products that people are looking for. As far as is higher inventory better, that can be very dangerous. And what I mean by that, let's take patio furniture. Everybody wanted to upgrade their back decks this summer in the beautiful weather that we had, and buy new patio furniture. But if a patio furniture company stocks up on 2020 product, the challenge is when 2021 comes, those customers may not want the old 2020 product anymore. They want the new stuff. And what's going to happen is that company is going to take a major hit on their bottom line if they have to sell the 2020 product at cost or lose money. So higher inventory can be a dangerous game. Some companies have to do it though.
Right. Just as a side, I ordered a fridge like 8 weeks ago and it still hasn't come in yet.
There you go.
It's crazy, but it's actually, you know, in all fairness to those companies, like you said, they can't be stuck with inventory, and there is a lot of uncertainty going into 2021. So they don't want to be stuck or on the hook for that. We did have a question from one of our audience members from Manny. He's asking about what about commercial retail? I know you spoke to that a little bit. Can you just go into it a little bit deeper?
Yeah, so how is commercial retail affected in today's pandemic? Yeah, well, what I think about commercial retail is this: we are social beings. And as much as we love social media, we like being with people. And as much as we like online shopping, we still like to go into stores and touch and feel product. So even though there are challenges right now, I do believe that things will turn around and return to pre-COVID levels. So I would say that yes, the retail market is challenged, but if you drive by Yorkdale right now, there's still a lot of people inside there. You drive by Vaughan Mills, there's people walking around, but what may hurt the most are, call it mom and pop shops across, the Queen Streets, the Bloor Streets of the world that will be affected. And with the weather changing in winter, it's not looking as good for them. And that applies to the restaurant market as well.
Right. I think we do have more time for one more question, I should say.
Sure.
With regards to the industrial real estate, what are the long-term implications that could be the result of changes in consumer behavior? We saw during from March to I think about September, we saw things like Amazon stock rise. Obviously, sure. Amazon is doing really well, Netflix, and these other companies. So can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, so for this question, Matthew, maybe what I'll do is I'll talk about the warehouses themselves and how warehouses can change to meet consumer demand. So again, we're a mass consumption market. And I believe that, and I see it every single day, that warehouses are going to change. So new technologies are going to come, new advanced technologies are going to come. So whether that's drones, robotics, exoskeletons, warehouse systems, et cetera, the question for these companies is going to be, how quickly can I get the product that the consumer ordered back into their hands? And that's all around efficiency in warehouses. So we are seeing a change and a shift. We are seeing how companies can even make lower clear height warehouses better. For example, there's robotics for every certain clear height. There's new reach trucks for every single clear height. So it's how can you make your space more efficient to get your product in and out to the consumer as fast as possible.
Right. Okay. You know what? We're making good timing. Let's get one more in there.
Sure.
So we're talking about office space. Personally, we're expanding our office space with a very fresh twist, and we've adapted as well. So how has you touched on it in your presentation? How has mandatory work from home protocols affected the commercial office market? Obviously.
So, I think even working from home may work. I mean, personally, I don't think it will, because I think you have to collaborate in the office with your colleagues, but that's just my opinion. So there's many occurrences besides the office market where, and Matthew, are we going to talk about transit here a little bit as well? Work from home and transit. So
yeah, let's do it.
So again, there's many instances where employees still need to come into the office. And what I mean by that is, for example, warehousers and manufacturing employees, they need to use transit every day to get into their warehouse, to get into their shop, to manufacture their product. And like I was saying before, it can be challenging for these employers to get their employees in as far as comfort levels. But transit is still going to be key for site selection for users, whether it's office space or warehousing, because transit creates core markets just like the Vaughan Metropolitan Center has, and they've created, live-work communities. So I do think that even though there are some work from home implementations, I don't think it fully works, and I still think you need transit and infrastructure to get other sources of employees to the office.
I agree, and it's not just because of the summit that I'm in the office. I cannot work from home.
No,
I don't understand these studies that everyone's more productive. I look around my house. I'm like, I got so many distractions.
I know.
So I've been coming in, and that's why we thought about our office space, and we're excited about the future. And I totally agree with you. I'm not being cued regarding the time, so I think we're good. Let's continue.
Sure.
There has been a lot of focus in recent months on the damage to the commercial real estate market because of COVID. So do you believe that this is an irreversible trend, Or do you think that commercial real estate will eventually return to the pre-COVID levels in the near future?
Matthew, I think it has to. And again, this goes back to my comment about, us being social beings. We like to go out to eat at restaurants. We like to go out and touch and feel product. So I think, unfortunately, as long as there's government restrictions out there, there are going to be some challenges. But I do think that when this pandemic one day goes away, things will come back to pre-COVID levels. We like going to shopping malls. We like walking along the queen streets of the world to look for product, and we like eating out. So yes, even though there's damage now, I do think this is going to be short-term and temporary, and I do think we are going to come back to a normal.
Awesome. I agree. I agree. There's no way we're going to continue to live the way we're living with all these restrictions as, hopefully things get developed, like a vaccine and whatnot, and we can go back to some sort of normal that we recognize, right?
Exactly. Completely agree.
So I know you did touch on this, but with regards to the pace of industrial development, is it really keeping up with the demand, or you think that, like you said, it's so difficult to build? I forget the percentage that you mentioned in your presentation, but it was so difficult to even meet that. But in order to keep up with the demand, we'd have to build and develop more. So are we really keeping up with it, or not really?
No, not at all. Not at all. And that's one of our biggest challenges, is there is so much demand because we're such a huge market, and we just can't build enough because it's too expensive. So that makes it very challenging. I've personally got requirements coming out of my ears that I just can't fill, and my colleagues in my office do too, and so do my competitors. Every single building that comes on the market now, there's 3 or 4 offers on it, which it's almost becoming like a hot residential market. But it has been this way for a long time, but the pandemic really hasn't affected it. But no, we are not keeping up with demand, and our supply is significantly shorter than it should be.
Got it. And you touched on, obviously, subway and transportation. So will the location and transportation infrastructure like subways continue as a factor if remote working ends up actually being something that works?
Yeah, I think it will. And Matthew, we can take Vaughan, for example. It adds as a differentiator to that specific submarket. So with the subway coming into to Vaughan and creating the Vaughan Metropolitan Center, it becomes unique, and that adds another factor of uniqueness. Vaughan has now become a live-work community. We see projects being announced, for example, Festival by Menkes and Quadreal. There's going to be 1,300 units coming to the Vaughan Metropolitan Center. And if Vaughan creates a live-work community, hopefully with those units coming out and hopefully being sold, that will also boost the office market because, hey, everyone, there's a place to work now. So I really do think that companies definitely do look at subways, and it becomes a differentiator in that submarket because of the subway. It's another unique factor as a bolt-on.
Right. That whole Highway 7 area is all being redeveloped, right? And it's
yes.
I walk out of my office now, I see Transit City going up, all the construction around us. So
yeah.
Excited.
Yeah, a lot around, Credit Stone, Costa Road, that general area is going to be starting down the road. Of course, there's a focus on the VMC now, but that area is going to slowly start to become condos.
Yeah. I'm excited. And so is having the subway, I know from a residential perspective, it's a huge selling point for our clients. So is having a subway today as important as it was before when companies are considering office space?
It's a tough question to say just because the whole office market is challenged. I think in the long run, if you're next to a subway, people are looking long term. We're not looking short term. We're in a global pandemic. So I really do believe that, a company will select a space that is close to a subway because down the road, it's going to work for employees. Now, with that being said, we are seeing the suburban office market thrive a little bit more. For example, downtown is so dense, so everybody has to either take the subway, which is packed, or get on a GO train to get to the market. But for suburban, for those who have cars, you hop in your car, you go to your office. It's probably less congested from an employee point of view. So the suburban market makes a little bit more sense to choose space versus downtown right now. But with that being said, I think that's short term and things are going to come back to a new normal.
Right. Mark, thank you. I really enjoyed it. I'm actually looking forward to connecting with you offline here. Thank you so
Looking
much
forward
for
to
your
it.
time. On behalf of the city, the Vaughan Chamber, and everybody involved, we thank you for your time and for being here.
Thank you all so much, Matthew. Thank you. Really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun this morning.
Yeah, likewise. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye. All right, so at this point, I would like to welcome Fostol Philippe from the City of Vaughan. Fostol joined the City of Vaughan in 2018 as the manager of long-range planning. In this capacity, Fostol oversees a number of citywide policy planning projects, and he is currently overseeing the city's official plan review. This is very important. Fostol came to the city from the town of Aurora, where he was employed for 20 years as both a development and policy/environmental planner. Fostol began his career in the private sector, where he was employed as a land use planning consultant.
And you can see that, correct?
That we could see. Great.
Okay, again, I apologize, everybody. With with the technical difficulties this morning, I ended up pulling up the wrong presentation. So I do apologize. That other presentation was an older version, and it just had more detail, which I wanted to spare you. I just wanted to kind of give you what the pertinent information was at this point. And like I said, provide you the opportunity to ask any more questions if you have, if you would like some more detail. So with respect to the current official plan review, other than meeting our statutory requirements and the need to bring the plan into conformity with the region's plan and the province's plan, we also need to update the city's official plan to reflect the numerous changes that have occurred over the last 10 years. And just a few examples are here on the slide. There is an immense growth in both residential and commercial building permits over the last 10 years. Since the last official plan was approved, we saw 3 subway stations open in Vaughan. We also saw the construction of a new hospital and also the opening of Niagara University's Vaughan campus in the Vaughan Metropolitan Center, known as the VMC. The key to any official plan review and the success of any official plan review is a very good communication and engagement strategy. The city is currently in the process of finalizing their communications and engagement strategy for the current official plan review. We had a draft strategy complete, and then we were hit with the COVID-19 pandemic. So there was definitely a need to go back, revisit that strategy, and bring all of the methodology and the components of the engagement strategy online to a virtual format. And it's important to note that this document or strategy is a living strategy. It's a living document. So when we're able to safely meet again in person, we can then revert back to in-person consultations quite easily. The current official plan review is going to take approximately 3 years. We are currently in phase 1 of the project. Phase 1 of the project is the visioning and background review portion. We've been undertaking that exercise over the last year. Phase 1 will lead into next year as well, 2021. And then later on in 2021, we will progress to phase 2, which really is the policy development phase of the official plan review. And then from there, in 2022, we will be entering the official plan adoption phase. And that is phase 3 of the project. And that is the phase, essentially, that is the statutory portion. That is when we will be having our statutory public open house. our statutory public planning meeting, and bringing the draft official plan to council for adoption. And then phase 4 is official plan approval, or the post-adoption phase that's set to take place in 2023. And that simply means the plan has been adopted by council, and we are sending it up to the Region of York for their approval of the document. As I mentioned, we are currently in phase 1 of the project. It represents the visioning and background review phase. It's in this phase that we launch the project. We do all of our background review. We are reviewing the current official plan to examine what's working, what's not, identify any policy gaps, and identify what needs to be changed to, essentially bring the plan from a 2010 perspective to a 2020 and beyond perspective. So what we've been doing in that regard is that we've been doing all of that work. We're also now in the process of reaching out to all of the internal departments and external agencies. We will be holding kickoff meetings with those folks over the next couple of weeks. We'll also be launching staff workshops at this time. And also we're putting the finishing touches on the project website so that we can have it up and running very soon in the new year. Then finally, it's important to note that the policy development, what you will see the policies going into the official plan, will actually be informed by 7 separate background papers. And those background papers consist of a residential growth paper, an employment use paper, an agricultural system paper, a commercial land use background paper, urban design and sustainability background paper, climate change and adaptation background paper, and a natural heritage background paper. These are going to be 7 individual background papers that speak to those individual subject matters, but obviously they're all related, and so there will be references to each paper between them. There will be a cross-pollinization, if you will, in the papers between them. But like I said, it'll be these 7 background papers that are going to form the policy that then gets inserted into the new official plan. And then finally, just wanted to leave you with our contact information. The official plan review core team is essentially the long-range planning team, the team that I work with. And definitely you are able to send us an email to our general mailbox at opr@vaughan.ca. Give us a call at extension 8935. Or also please feel free to reach out to myself directly. My email is my name, fausto.filippetto@vaughan.ca, and my extension is 8699. Thanks very much, and I'd be happy to field any questions you have at this time.
Yes, thank you. And what a world we're living in with technology, right? If it wasn't for COVID, we wouldn't have these potential issues, but we got through it, and it was a great presentation. So thank you for that, Fausto.
And thank you so much, Matthew. And again, I do apologize for the glitches, but hey, like you said, we made it.
It is what it is. With respects to your presentation, it's fantastic that we're seeing how the city plans on expanding and incorporating that with the York Regional Plan. And we're really excited about that. So just a reminder to all of our audience members, if you have a question, we have a Q&A function, and we want to get through as many questions as possible. So now is the perfect time. And we do have one question from Arash. And the question is, are there any new initiatives that you know of, Fausto, that the city of Vaughan is actually looking to implement with regards to the missing middle and expanding housing options to other neighborhood areas. And I think I saw a post, if I'm understanding your question correctly, Arash, it's closer to the question of, I think, affordable housing. And I think I saw a post from the mayor of Vaughan earlier today regarding this. Is there any kind of plan for this?
Yes, definitely. Thank you for the question. That's a great question. It's something that we've put our mind to, not just now that we're doing an official plan review. Actually, the city and as well as all local 9 local municipalities in the region of York have been working jointly and cooperatively with the region in this regard. It's under the jurisdiction of the region to be looking at those types of matters, but they're doing so again jointly with the local municipalities, just to I guess number 1, strategize, number 2, see what's kind of appetite there is in each municipality for different incentives to, incent the missing middle, affordable housing and all that. So that's something we're definitely have been working on. Having said that, through the official plan review, that's definitely one of the key issues that were identified. We retained WSP as our land use consultants, our lead consultants, rather, lead planning consultants, back late last year when we had our kickoff meeting. Again, we identified any of the hot issues, and that was one of them. And that's one of the responses that are going to be coming out of the residential growth paper. We're looking for, a housing strategy, how we address that missing middle, how we, are able to get more affordable housing, things like that. Again, under the Planning Act, we can't control tenure. So we can't just say, in this area, you have to, have affordable housing by way of a rental housing. We can only control land use, not tenure. But having said that, there's all kinds of policies that we can include. Policies that allow council to use different incentives. And so again, through the residential growth background paper, we are going to be examining what kind of things we can do to fill that gap in the missing middle. One of the big items, again, is how do you build affordability? And what essentially what affordability equals right now in the city of Vaughan is condominiums, or residential apartment condominiums rather than ground related. However, the problem there is that they're for the most part 1 bedroom. So they're fine if it's a person or a couple of people, but they don't really address the needs of like a family.
Right.
So I mean, that's something we're really going to be looking at is how do you incentivize more condominium develop, more certainly more apartments rather than ground related. And there's lots of opportunities to do that. There's lots of areas where we're going to be focusing intensification. But again, it's bumping those the number of bedrooms up from 1 to 2 and 3.
Right. We actually do a lot of work, our company, with the condo developers in the area. And yeah, I would love to see that, because there are a lot of millennial home buyers and Gen Z, or Gen Zs, I should say, and they're having a hard time affording, proper housing to raise a family, like you mentioned. So the alternative is 1 bedroom plus then condos, perhaps a smaller 2-bedroom condo. But is it really enough to start a family and continue that, right? Randy has a question, and the question is the city considering allowing coach houses on residential lots for housing intensification in the future?
Great question, and it also, is related to the first question. again, we will be examining, yes, the short answer is yes. Under the residential growth paper, it's something that we will be examining. Right now, we do allow and have a bylaw for second suites, essentially basement apartments. But we refer to them as second suites. And we will, through the official plan review, be examining that as well, to see where we could appropriately, allow things like coach housing.
Awesome. And there's a question that I'm really interested in as well, in hearing the answer. Miguel is asking, are there any plans to expand the subway or railway up Jane Street towards all of the condos at Jane and Rutherford, as well as Canada's Wonderland / the hospital?
So it's a great question. As far as I know, the answer right now is nothing in the immediate future to expand that subway up Jane. One of the things that we received direction from, in terms of council, is to start looking at that corridor, not necessarily for subway extension, but I do believe that there is at least long-term plans to improve transit in the area, for sure. Right now, the priority is really the Young Line extension, and that's what the province has made the priority. So now, right now at least, that's what provincially and regionally the transportation planners are focusing on. So it's a great question. We're looking at that corridor and what we can do in that corridor. It's already identified as an intensification corridor, right, through the region, or a primary corridor rather. So you have the ability to intensify those uses. I know there's plans for improved transit in the area, but in terms of subway, I have not heard of anything yet. If it does happen, it would be something that I believe is very long-term.
Yeah, I agree. We have a question actually from the president of the Vaughan Chamber, Brian Schiffman, and he's inquiring with regards to the intensification around the hospital, the new hospital, and are there any plans for specifically for housing for those employees, those staff, everybody that's going to comprise of that hospital?
I thought you were going to say we have Joe Biden on the line. So thank you for the question. Just generally speaking, we're very early in the process. So one of the things we're going to be looking at is our current urban structure and where there is an opportunity for intensification. There's a lot of opportunity for intensification throughout the city. And that is definitely one of the nodes that we will be looking at. I know that their city is studying that area specifically as well. And one of the things we are looking at is, again, a potential for intensification in that area, provision of housing for people that work in the hospital, right? Mm-hmm. So the answer to the question is yes. Again, this particular official plan review is a comprehensive one. So we are looking at things on a citywide basis, not a site-specific basis. That's something to keep in mind. Through official plan reviews, a lot of times people will come in and say, I have this particular property, it's located here, and I would like to change the designation to be able to build some housing. Right now, it's a commercial plaza, for example. That type of site-specific planning is not something that we are going to, or at least going to try not to entertain through this official plan review. It's the larger citywide comprehensive planning that we're going to be undertaking, and certainly areas like the hospital are, do meet that criteria. We will be looking at that area and determining proper planning, not only residential, but other land uses as well.
Amazing. And just before we wrap up, something from me. If you, Fostol, with all your background and your experience, could put one word about the future of Vaughan, what would that word be?
Only one word.
Only one word.
If I only had to use one word, it would be exciting.
I agree.
I think it's an exciting time. There's lots of opportunities. Obviously, 2020 has been a hell of a year for everybody. And the difficulties that we face on a daily basis. I mean, it was evident just in trying to get me online, right? But I think with things like that, again, it's a cliche. People have been saying it. It's an opportunity to hit the reset button, right? Um, and so a lot has happened, and so certain activities that were going to happen regardless, have been accelerated. Things like e-commerce, right, have been accelerated. Things like working remotely and working from home, that's been accelerated. And so, although, having to do that within the confines of a pandemic is not ideal, it's great to be at home, when it's your choice. When it's not your choice, then it's a little bit difficult. I know I'm having challenges working from home. Not that the work can't be done, but I miss going into work. I miss, my coworkers and the social aspect. So, but there's a lot of opportunity, and one thing that the pandemic kind of showed is that, look, we've been in this in March and we haven't skipped a beat. It's been full steam ahead. We've been able to transition and work from home. So that's going to have land use impacts, right? It's going to impact on, again, all these background papers, residential growth. What is new housing going to look like? Employment, commercial, all of those systems are going to be impacted. But hopefully in an exciting way, right? My fear is that once this pandemic's over, we have a vaccine, everybody gets complacent, we go back to normal and get back to the mentality, oh no, you have to go into the office to work. You're not going to be working from home, right? So it's exciting. I think it's important to remember what our successes through working through this pandemic, because it could really has the potential to solve some of our problems like congestion,
I
right?
thank you for that, Fostol. That's a very in-depth analysis, and I agree with you. It couldn't be more exciting. We thank you on behalf of the City of Vaughan, on behalf of the Vaughan Chamber. We thank you for spending your time here with us today, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you everybody so much. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and enjoy the conference.
Thank you, sir. All right, so thank you all for listening in. That presentation was amazing, and I'd now like to welcome Jason Mercer from the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, also known as TREB, to discuss how Vaughan and surrounding municipalities continue to move forward with growth and development. So Jason is TREB's Chief Market Analyst and Director of Service Channels. He leads TREB's market analysis program that provides products and services that help realtors and their clients fully understand trends in the GTA housing market and underlying economic drivers. Jason, we've had a chance to speak before this. Welcome. Excited to have you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. It's all yours.
Okay. Well, my understanding for this session is we're having more of a discussion. I know you guys sent me some questions, and tomorrow I was presenting, I think, on the housing market more broadly. But
yes,
if that's...
you are right. You are right. So,
all right,
folks, everyone who's attending, we have a Q&A feature at the bottom, just as a reminder. So please let us know if you have any questions, and we want to answer all of them. So let's just get started with regards to COVID, obviously the big topic of conversation in all of these presentations. We're members of the Toronto Real Estate Board ourselves, and you guys do a great job sending us stats all the time. And what we want to really know is, in light of COVID and the mass exodus that was happening outside cores of metropolitan hubs towards the suburbs, what can Vaughan and other York Region municipalities do to position themselves for success in light of the accelerated growth?
Sure. I mean, I think it's an interesting question, and it's one that's been, quite common. As you said, we release our statistics on a monthly basis, and inevitably, when I'm talking to reporters, and I think when a lot of our members are talking to reporters as well, that's a question that comes up. Are we seeing this sort of exodus out of the downtown core, out of the 416 area code, and into some of the surrounding regions? And certainly, if you think back to the spring, and even if you were to look at our year-to-date numbers, just on their own, it suggests that we've seen, a lot more growth in the 905 and even 705 regions of the Greater Toronto Area, or Greater Golden Horseshoe, if you want to even extend it out more broadly. But it should be noted that it's a relatively short period of time that we're talking about here, basically from the middle of March up until where we are today. And I'd be remiss not to note that, since August, we've seen a real resurgence in home sales within the City of Toronto as well. So whether you're talking about the City of Toronto, or whether you're talking about, the surrounding regions, we're back to seeing, double-digit rates of growth on a year-over-year basis, particularly if you're looking at the, single-family segments of the market. And looking forward, if you think about a region like York and drilling down, into Vaughan, I think they're very well positioned to continue to see, strong growth and benefit from, economic growth, which will be driven by population growth. If you think about, the GTA and where its population growth has come from over the last few decades, it's been on the back of immigration. And recently we saw the, federal government announce that in conjunction with their broader sort of recovery plan, we're going to see for the next 3 years immigration targets above 400,000 people per year. And the GTA has been the single greatest beneficiary of immigration to Canada, and certainly York region and Vaughan within, because we're attracting people from all around the world based on our cultural diversity, but also based on our economic diversity. And so we're creating jobs across a number of different sectors, and people want to take advantage of those opportunities. And then thinking about the previous presentations this morning, when you think about, well, where do I want to settle down and live, areas where there's been a concerted effort to see improved and renewed infrastructure and transit opportunities, and even most importantly opportunities for mixed use development. Those prove very enticing to people thinking about where they want to work and where they want to live.
Yeah, and it's great that you mentioned the 705, because I never for once thought I was going to be doing a lot of work in Barrie.
Yeah.
And we've seen that market just take off, right? And I don't know if you know off the top of your head the answer to this. I know that Barrie is one of the stronger rental markets in Ontario. I think per square footage, it's second in all of Ontario compared to Toronto. Has that shifted now that Toronto rents have kind of decreased in the condo market at all? Would you happen to know?
Well, I don't track the rental market, as closely as I do in the City of Toronto. But I mean, if you just think about, let's just talk about it in terms of overall growth that we've seen in the Greater Golden Horseshoe, and so those areas, outside of the GTA proper that have experienced really strong growth. I mean, you mentioned Barrie, but we could put Hamilton, we could put Kitchener, we could put Guelph into those categories as well. And so if you think about areas where young people are going to work, where people are going to school, I think it only stands to reason that you're seeing very strong demand both for rental housing and ownership housing. And to get back to your previous presenter who was looking at sort of the longer term time frame for planning, getting that continuum of housing right and filling in that missing middle that right now there's not as many opportunities will be really important, because we want to see people moving from rental, potentially into home ownership, and able to kind of move through the different forms of housing that sort of meet their needs as their lifestyle changes, as their housing need changes over time. And so I get really excited when I hear people from different planning departments throughout the GTA proactively speaking to policies promoting more missing middle type of development, because we need that. If you think about our housing market, whether you're talking about the resale market or the new home market over the last decade, we've had a real supply crunch. And I think to the credit of both policymakers at the municipal and regional level and up to the province, they get it, and we're seeing more and more policy directions pointed at seeing a greater diversity of housing come online. And obviously that's important for affordability, and it's important for competitiveness across the board. If you can offer a diversity of housing at affordable price points, then that makes your region more competitive than other areas in Canada and North America. And obviously you see further economic growth as a result.
Yeah, and so speaking to that, because we deal here with a lot of first-time home buyers, and it's typically the same. Most of them are typically in the same situation. What can I afford? What can I get into? And I just want to get my foot in the door. What have you been seeing that these policymakers are trying to implement in terms of that kind of middle housing? What are you seeing? What are some of the ideas being thrown around?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you think about missing middle and how that debate has unfolded over the last few years, I think what you're looking at is the type of housing that kind of bridges that gap between, say, the traditional condominium apartment, mid-rise or high-rise condominium apartment, of which you've seen both develop certainly over the last decade in York Region and Vaughan. And sort of bridging the gap between that type of development and traditional single family home type. So if you think of the York Region and Vaughan context, probably the most popular types has been either single detached houses or townhomes, right? And but there's room for additional types of development in there, whether you're talking about plexes or stacks and that type of thing. And obviously what missing middle, how missing middle unfolds will kind of depend on the region you're talking about. I mean, you can imagine in some areas, especially those where you're seeing more transit infrastructure, more mixed use sort of commercial opportunities as well. You might see a more higher density version of that sort of missing middles versus in more suburban, traditional suburban type neighborhoods. You'd see sort of a more gentle density or a density gradient that kind of matched or coalesced with the existing forms of development that have built up. But definitely seeing more plex type development, more stacked type development that kind of bridges that gap and allows you to kind of have that density gradient as the situation permits.
Yeah, you and Fostol said it best. It's exciting. I'm really excited about what the future holds, and I'm hopeful because there are people out there that are caring about the future generations and how are they going to afford housing. So I'm very hopeful and I'm excited. So just shifting our focus to specifically to Vaughan and our subway extension.
Yep.
How has that played a critical role in the city of Vaughan, and do you think it will continue to play a role in the growth of other cities similar to Vaughan?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you can see, transit infrastructure in place that can, allow people to move more easily and in a, relatively economic fashion between, work and home, and even between home and leisure activities. I mean, that's going to be a good thing. It's obviously going to, enhance people's access to different housing alternatives and other things they need to meet their needs. I think just having that type of infrastructure and obviously the commitment to that infrastructure. So, Fostol was talking about, not only the current subway infrastructure that's been put in place in Vaughan over the last few years, but obviously the planning for the future as well. And I think, whether you're talking about companies that are looking to move to an area, or whether you're talking about people that are looking to move to the GTA and looking at particular municipalities they're in, when they hear people talking about, subway infrastructure, new hard services, mixed use development, the light bulb goes on, and they're thinking, well, this is a region that's growing. This is a region that's in touch with the growth that they've seen and are going to see moving forward, and it speaks to our competitiveness, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that, and with regards to the subway, for us on a residential side, it's a huge selling feature, especially for investors, right? And we're looking at areas now like Innisfil, where there's a proposed development of, I think, 35,000 new residences, and Metrolinx has committed to now extending the GO and putting, I should say, not extending, but putting a GO station in Innisfil. With all this connectivity, some people are looking at it, at least my clients are looking at it and saying, I can save on the cost of housing by moving up north, for example, and then just commuting to Toronto is quite easy, or Vaughan is quite easy to do nowadays. And I agree with you, it attracts a lot of a positive growth, positive energy, investors, and there's that idea of things going forward in the positive manner. So I agree with you. We have time, I think, for one more question, Jason. And what I'd like to ask, there's a couple of questions. I'm just going through them. I want to make sure. Let's see which one is could be the most popular. Okay, so I like this one. Prior to COVID, densification was a key goal for many suburbs and plays a significant role in the provincial growth plan, as we saw. So should densification remain a key target and goal for Vaughan and the surrounding areas to attract talent?
Yeah, I kind of bring it back to our earlier discussion, and certainly Fostol before me, in talking about, I guess the mix of development that we need to be really looking at moving forward. And so, certainly there are is a multitude of opportunities to bring online, denser forms of development than certainly what we see in sort of the traditional single family side of the market. And I think, it's important that we're looking at, the continuum of housing with an eye to affordability. And so certainly, when we do consumer polling at the end of each year, and we'll be doing another round of it this month and releasing the details early in 2020, what we find is that, there are a lot of households that are either, focused on the condominium apartment market, but even more so when you think about what people are looking for at that single family. And so when we're thinking about that sort of density gradient again, what's really sort of missing there is people that are looking for more sort of ground oriented options, but maybe it's not a detached home. And so that's where we've seen a little bit lack of a lack of choice and a lack of inventory in the marketplace, both in the resale and the new home market, is in that missing middle component. And so, it doesn't need to be either high density or low density. I think there's a lot of room in between. And when you start talking about, sort of mixed use infrastructure, when you start talking about, plans for, additional public transit, that really paves the way for it, because you can actually, you can start that sort of a density gradient in station areas, and then kind of obviously you see the type of housing kind of change as you move away. And I know, thinking about, announcements from the province and thinking about Metrolinx, I mean, they're very much focused on the concept of stationary development, acting as a catalyst for development, both, in the high and then sort of mid-density categories, as you kind of, tier away, if you will, from those station areas. And so, I think that, the type of transit development that we're seeing in York Region and other parts of the Greater Toronto Area can certainly be a catalyst to see a greater diversity of home types coming online.
Awesome. And just very quickly before I let you go, Miguel is asking, and I'm very curious to know, what is the latest news on implementing a vacant home tax in Toronto? Have you heard anything?
I mean, I think that thinking about different policies pointed at the rental market. I mean, we've been having that discussion and that debate. Whether you're talking about a vacant home tax, whether you're talking about regulations on short-term rentals, and I think to a certain degree, there is some uncertainty out there on the part of investors, and it's perhaps one of the reasons why we've seen an uptick in listings in the ownership market for condominium apartments. Because if there is some uncertainty, and you add to that the fact that a lot of the jobs that cater towards renters and the rental market, those jobs are also the ones that have recovered the slowest from COVID-19 and continue to be impacted by the necessary public health regulations that are in place. It's been a tough go on the rental market side of things. And so if you're talking about a vacancy tax, and it's meant to spur more supply in the market, I mean, we're seeing a lot more supply in the market right now. And so I think, sort of looking at how things unfold in the rental market and in the investor space over the next year or so, especially as we go from, COVID to, hopefully post-COVID as quickly as possible, I think it's important for policymakers to see how rental market conditions unfold over the next couple of years when they're thinking about, sort of policy directions related to, that segment of the market. Because it's important to remember, if not for investors, we don't see a lot of the rental stock that's available to people today. Because, on net, the great majority of rental apartments available to people out there today over the last decade has come online on the back of individual investors purchasing units at the sales center and eventually bringing them online as buildings complete. And so it's important to think about, well, what's an investor going to do at the sales center if there's a little less certainty in terms of how flexible they'll be able to be with that investment.
I agree with you, and very insightful. I appreciate you being here with us and spending the time on behalf of the city and the Vaughan Chamber. And Jason, where can our audience members find you should they want to connect with you offline?
Sure. I mean, the first stop, they ought to check out TREB's website, trreb.ca, and you go to the market stats section, and we have, monthly and quarterly reports that cover, everything from, traditional residential real estate through to the rental market, the condo market, and the commercial market as well. And there's certainly contact information in all of those reports. And, I'm always happy to talk to people about the marketplace and get people's feel for what's going on in individual areas or even at the regional level. So, I really appreciate the opportunity today, and I'm excited to be back with you guys again tomorrow morning as well.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you, Jason. See you tomorrow.
Very welcome. Take care.
Have a good day.
You bet, you too.
All right, everyone. That was amazing. I know I'm learning a lot. I hope you are too. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take a short break. We want to resume this presentation, this virtual event at 10:20 a.m. So we're going to just take a short break and we'll be back with you all very soon. Just a quick reminder that the Vaughan Business Achievement Awards will be taking place next week on November 18th. Over 450 tickets have been sold. I know I'm attending. My entire team is attending, and I'm a finalist there. So make sure you guys get your tickets. We're all excited about that. And we will resume shortly at 10:20 a.m. See you soon. Welcome back, everyone. I'm going to be resuming everything now, and we're going to be welcoming Stephen Schmidt. I hope you have your coffee and your espresso in hand and you're ready, because this is going to be an amazing session. So Stephen Schmidt is from the City of Vaughan, and he's going to be joining us to provide a demo of the City of Vaughan's new vacant employment land directory. Stephen Schmidt is an economic development coordinator with the City of Vaughan's Economic and Cultural Development Department. Stephen has been in this field of economic development for more than 4 years, and he is currently supporting the department's continuing digital and data and analytics expansion. Stephen, it's all yours.
Thank you, Matthew, and good morning, everybody. I'm sort of having connection issues, so I'm really glad that the video's going in proper here. So in a moment, I'll share my screen with everybody.
If it wasn't for COVID, we would never have these technical issues, so we're all good. And I see your screen.
All righty. Oh, you can?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So thank you, Matthew, for the introduction. So I wanted to present to everybody our vacant employment land directory and provide a little bit of an introduction. So previously, our department maintained a physical copy directory that was updated on more of an annual basis. So the introduction of a tool like this for our department is, well, to transition firstly from a physical copy into something more digital that's publicly available and accessible for professionals or just about any stakeholder in the community to be able to access. So prior to this, the physical copy was more or less updated on an annual basis, and definitely not what you would consider real time. So in transitioning to the vacant employment land directory, the digital version, we're hoping to and striving for more or less updating the directory in real time, reducing lead time requests for any sort of vacant lands within the City of Vaughan. So we're hoping that this is a really strong step or a first step in that direction. So what I want to do is quickly show everybody how to access the tool, and then I'll continue on with sort of what we're pulling together with this product. First and foremost, we're hoping, and we created this tool more as a promotional piece and for reference. By no means does this mean that you're getting away from connecting with or planning departments, building standards, stuff like that for zoning additional information. This is more a tool to sort of get your stake in there, get a feel for what's available in Vaughan, and sort of connect with us and make this whole process a lot more smoother for everybody involved. So with the vaughanbusiness.ca, this is our new website. We transitioned to this platform in mid-May of this year. So it's an exciting new website for us, and it's absolutely beautiful. So from the home page, jump to the vacant employment land directory. Another URL that everybody can use to access this very easily is vaughanbusiness.ca/vacant lands. Will take you straight to this page as well. So before you begin, get your little introduction here, because it's a little bit of a newer tool, and I'll go into sort of explaining, we're leveraging Microsoft Power BI to bring this directory together. So it's a little bit newer, and there's some nuances to get used to, but we've compiled more or less a basic tutorial on just the quick little tidbits you need to know to navigate the tool and make this as easy of a transition as possible. So getting to the actual meat and potatoes of the tool. So Matthew, if it's okay, can you see this as, right now?
Yes, we can see. It's like an aerial map, right?
Yeah, perfect. So there are a number of features. I'm going to try to show this away so that I can have full access. So we've went with a point system because we're using Power BI, and you'll see the beautiful Bing watermark down there. We're leveraging a lot of what's in the Microsoft environment. Because it's a new tool, most might be familiar with, Esri's GIS online system, stuff like that. We delved into Power BI as it sort of fit our resources and needs, and allowed us to pull in information, work with it in a little bit more flexible of a manner. Not to say that future iterations of our vacant employment land directory might not go in the direction of Esri. This was a good tool for us to put together. So this is a culmination of a few months of work on our end, working and consulting with our various departments within planning, infrastructure delivery, and so on and so forth, as well as collaboration with York Region. So just to sort of get everybody familiar with this, we have our sort of additional information, our reference page within the tool. So this will give you a quick blurb on the product, the data product itself, some common terminology, sort of how we're coming up with some of the calculations, expanding, elaborating on some of the abbreviations and terminology that you'll be coming across in the tool, as well as within the zoning bylaw and so on and so forth. So with this section, we're trying to connect our departments from this tool, so that, again, in the course of sort of identifying sites that meet your clients or your own criteria, you know exactly whether it's to connect with us or jump into other departments where you need to do for additional follow-up. So to more or less assist with filtering, because there's about, say, around 200 parcels identified in this map. So I'll just sort of show everybody what you're able to sort of get away with here. So because it uses spatial layer, and one of the limitations that we have right now, and especially with Power BI sort of being a new entry for Microsoft, is there are limitations. So unfortunately, while we would love to implement polygons, sort of in the short term, it is a bit of a drawback and something that we want to look at in the future. Right now, we're sort of left with point data, sort of longitude, latitude, GPS coordinates to identify where our parcels are. So when you hover over and each blue dot identifies a different parcel within the area, and I'll show you an additional iteration that'll be coming later on to provide you a little bit more context as opposed to simply just seeing that dot. So what we've culminated together and what you're seeing here when you hover over each point is the site itself, where it is within our employment area, the site number that we use to identify each unique parcel. We're providing the assessment roll number, the address, the site zoning, as well as information on when the site was last updated. So you can go in and sort of identify very quickly some of the locations within and across Vaughan on where there are potential opportunities. So one of the caveats that I want to sort of bring about with something like this, first and foremost, these are vacant sites within our employment areas, and that's where we're focusing on with this product. You won't so much see any vacant parcels outside of those areas for commercial purposes. So we're trying to focus and refine and make clear that distinction. The second part to this is just because we have 193 parcels, or I think it's 193, 200, just because we have a large number of parcels doesn't necessarily mean that all of these are on market, doesn't necessarily mean that potentially some of these owners are willing to sell. We just are more or less identifying the opportunities within Vaughan, and that's where it falls upon yourselves when we provide ownership information, so on and so forth, to make those connections and to determine whether or not the parcel is for sale. So I'll quickly show everybody the filter pan and how we're going to drill down and identify potentially locations that may or may not fit your needs. So we've more or less structured it to be able to be filtered by your employment zone. So we do a quick click on Elder Mills. Let's do a quick control click on Nashville. We can sort of identify parcels that are within those areas. We can go even further and say, we're looking for locations between 20 to 25 acres, net developable. And there we go. we're able to drill it down. Furthermore, we could, if you're wanting to look at specific sites, you've identified maybe Nashville 2, Nashville 3 meet your needs. You can drill it down, easily provide information there. And I'll show it a little bit more in terms of a demo later. So let's go to reset. Let's say, you want to simplify things. You're not looking to zone anything with open space. You're not looking to bother with anything zoned residential or partially residential. So it'll start to filter the list. Now, let's say you want to keep things as simple as possible for your client. You don't want to have to deal with multiple zoned locations. So we'll do multi-zone filtered false. So what we'll end up with is those criterias, and we'll have single zone location. Let's say you don't want anything in terms of agriculture. We'll take that off. There you go. So we built the tool to try to be as intuitive as possible to allow you to sort of drill down what you're looking for, and then later on follow up with us. One of the things I do want to focus on, and it's a very, very short-term addition that we're looking to do immediately, is we are aware that doing these sort of circular components, and they are scaled by the size of the parcel. That's why you'll see some smaller ones, some bigger dots. So I'll just quickly show you a demo. So we are aware that having something like this isn't ideal as a standalone. So we'll just look at the Highway 427 East employment area. So let's say you want to look for something within this area. Another feature that's really nice, especially if you're not dealing with one parcel and you might have say 4 that sort of meet your selection criteria. When you right click the table, you can jump in, or sorry, right click the map, you can jump in, and it'll show all the locations within the table. Unfortunately, one of the limitations with Power BI is users can't export natively this data. It's something that we want to try to work in the future to remedying, because we realize it isn't the most ideal to be able to be presented with an Excel spreadsheet and not being able to export any of this. But the tool does allow you to be able to sort of identify different parcels, different locations, and get a better understanding of what's being zoned and what's in this area. So you'll notice here under the site selection map, because Power BI has that limitation where we can't showcase polygons, we're stuck with sort of point data. We are building in and mapping the locations here as well. So that if you're sort of wondering, okay, well, great, I'm dealing with 20 acres within the employment area. Well, what does that look like? What am I actually purchasing and working with here? So essentially, this map will give you a nice understanding of the scale and the shape of that parcel. We've numbered them and labeled them, so it's hopefully easy to navigate. It is a temporary solution for the time being. Our ultimate goal will be to create a product where we can incorporate polygons, and the bigger priority for us is to make this as easy, seamless, and intuitive as possible, because we want to make this a really smooth experience for the end user. So, for the most part, that's more or less the tool. Again, we'll clear filter. You can go in, do single selections if you knew prior to, or you want to showcase a parcel to a client. You can click away based on, we combine in this area field our employment area and then the site number. You can make quick, easy selections, potentially do multiple selections. And again, just double back in there. And then again, as opposed to hovering over each location to sort of see, we can again open up the table, and then we have that breakdown. So I won't, for time purposes, I won't delve too much into gross area developable and net. How that's being calculated, we do detail in the reference area as well. And that's something that our department is making attempts, and we're hoping anyway, aligning with York Region. The big one as well is we want things to be consistent, so that if there's something referenced by York Region, then we're in the same boat. It's apples to apples, and there's no major or any discrepancy whatsoever. So that's more or less the tool in its current state. So how we've developed this, so jump into the tool, quick demo if you need it, into the application itself. And one of the changes that we want to do and some of the additional services that we provide will come through these individual requests. Just because what we're presenting here in this tool is detailed in and of itself does not actually mean that we don't have anything else in our sleeves. We easily can provide additional services. We're just sort of limited to what we can showcase publicly. So we've created this form. So let's say hypothetically, you've drilled your selection down to a couple parcels. You sort of have your criteria, you know what you're looking for specifically. Then what we'll ask is if you need additional information. So some of the services, whether it's site mapping, ownership information, utilities, natural gas, so on and so forth. We're able to provide those in a follow-up with you guys, with stakeholders, anybody looking to inquire, and throw in the sites that you're referencing, some of the reasons why you're looking to pull in the information, the services exactly that you're looking for, and then we'll be able to immediately pop in, follow up, and provide those additional services for you guys as well. So this is the product as it is now. Sort of in the future, what we're looking to do is adding more, not just services and data sets that are available within the city, but we're also looking to expand and add additional information. So one of the more recent connection points we've made is with YorkNet. And if you're not familiar with YorkNet, they're the ones that are creating dark fiber infrastructure across York Region to connect municipal facilities and other services. And the private and public sectors can tap in, lease those lines, and have access to incredible fiber speeds. In addition to that, connecting with Enbridge, Electra, bringing in additional data sets to be able to not just provide more richer advisory services so that you know exactly what you're getting with some of these sites, and you can drill down your selection to your ideal site. But trying to provide services in a more timely manner. And again, what we've built is something that's a little bit more iterative. We are continuously looking to improve this tool. So as new data sets come in, we're going to look to pull it into this tool. And again, try to build not necessarily one-stop shop, but something that not just promotes Vaughan's vacant lands, but also provides an ideal reference tool to be able to connect with other city professionals who are engaged with advising. So that's more or less it. And the bigger horizon, again, continuing to add in, with the advent of mobility data insights, being able to pull in those tools. And then just to reiterate one last time, we went with Power BI because it fits our needs now. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a tool that we want to use indefinitely. With growing pains as new data sets come in, this might not be a platform that's ideal for showing additional layers, so on and so forth. So I think this is a good entry step for our department, especially going from physical to digital. But very much this is a living and breathing tool that we're looking to expand and work with, and I think it's a very exciting addition to our department's sort of repertoire. So I think that about wraps up the vacant employment land directory from our end. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Stephen. This is actually amazing because I haven't seen something like this before, and as you mentioned, it's new. So I have a couple of questions, if that's okay, and I want to remind our audience that if they have any questions, please submit them in the Q&A, and we're going to be sure to try to get to all of them. So just to confirm, the link to access this is vaughanbusiness.ca/vacant land, correct?
Yeah, that's the user-friendly, accessible URL.
Perfect. So one question, when people are searching for these vacant lands, I saw the criteria. It was just a little bit hard to see because of the screen share, but Is there a criteria where people can use to like identify specific lands with specific zoning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you know what? My apologies. Let me try to make the tool a little bit bigger. One of the limitations that we want to work with our developers on is to expand the tool size, just because it is a little bit smaller scaled. So if you're looking for something, well, right now it's a little bit more broader. If you're looking for something zone commercial, the tool can identify sort of everything within the category of commercial. So if you're looking for something specific, it's an addition that we want to make and potentially create in a search field, so that if you're looking for very, very specific zones, you can enter the search field and then it'll refine to exactly what you're looking for. Right now it's a limitation, and that's beautiful feedback for us to sort of take in and adjust the tool. One of the nice things and why we chose Power BI is we can make changes like this so long as they're within the limitations of the tool. We can make this on the fly and have these adjustments made very, very live, very quickly.
Yeah. And a couple of other questions. Can I go ahead and assume that the reason behind the City of Vaughan wanting to develop this kind of tool is because of their plans of expansion and encouraging developers to, go ahead and make the investment, commit to Vaughan's future? This is a resource that the city's implemented for absolutely for free for users, so that we can have easier time finding these vacant lands. Is that kind of the premise behind all of this?
Absolutely. More recently, a key priority from council was to focus on city building. And this is sort of our first initial response of many to be able to help facilitate that priority. This is a fantastic little tool where you're able to identify exactly what you need in a timely manner. You're not pulling any teeth. You can find what you look for and then easily connect with this. But yeah, absolutely. This is sort of one of our key pieces to help promote city building and to help continue to grow Vaughan, whether it's in residential or commercial, industrial with this tool.
Awesome. And we have a question from David. He's asking specifically regarding site zoning. So where is there like a resource on the Vaughan City of Vaughan's website where consumers can go ahead and find the definition of certain codes, zoning codes? Is there an easy link for that?
Absolutely. It's built into our system. So this is our reference page. You can actually, trying to shuffle around the windows. You can access it in multiple ways. When you click down here and select additional information, it will give you that really basic, EM1 is prestige employment area. But you can also jump into our zoning bylaw for those permitted uses and what exactly each of those are. And again, as things change, because there are some things in effect that will change shortly, we aim to update all the information within this tool as quick as possible. That way you're not being taken to an older version of the zoning bylaw or anything like that. So a lot of the tools that are available and some of the additional information is available within this section.
Awesome. This reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever seen it, where there's that old, I guess it's that old image that's depicted of a developer riding in a helicopter, flying in a helicopter, I should say, and trying to look for vacant land. It's like, okay, with technology, we don't need to do that anymore. We can just go on the computer, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. I even something like this, transitioning to from physical to the digital version of this, man, we're able to update this a lot quicker. And again, our end goal is real time. So as things change within the city, we're hoping that as soon as the DA is submitted, bam, this gets pulled out of our system. Because the last thing we want to do is misidentify, and then we're not only wasting the owner's time, we're wasting professionals' time, so on and so forth. So yeah, like this is hugely different. I love technology.
Yeah, same here. And obviously with the emergence of 5G and you mentioned all of this new technology that's coming into play, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more development on this side of things, and it's just going to make things so much more efficient. So I'm really excited about it. Can you give us a little bit of a teaser of what to expect going forward?
The big one that we're hoping to go after, and it really depends on city resources, but we are interested in pulling in mobility data, and there's some really fantastic and interesting things being done with different third-party developers, where they're real-time updates based on sort of the 2016 census to be able to provide some insight on. It's a good example. Like, okay, you're after something within this location. Okay, what are the nearby public transit systems? What population? What are the types of jobs that are happening within the area? So the great thing with this is these are all new tools that are either up and coming or are currently within sort of that environment. So it's just simply a matter of taking those steps and pulling in those tools. But mobility data is definitely an exciting and incredibly rich data set that would give us incredible powers to be able to provide detailed insight. Like at the end of the day, with everybody within the field, we want to get the right person in the right location and loving that they're, at least in this case, loving that they're in Vaughan and it meets all of their needs. So that would be one of the bigger teaser tools. So hopefully we get it sooner rather than later, but only time will tell.
Exciting. Okay. Stephen, where can our audience members find you should they wish to connect or have any questions?
I'll shamelessly plug our website. Jump to, so on vaughan.ca, go to connect.
It's a beautiful website. I've been on it recently.
And I am right here.
Nice.
ECD at vaughan.ca, or even the site selection forum. There are multiple ways in getting in touch with us. Yeah, sorry, if I had a slideshow, I'd throw up my contact information a little bit more easily. But yeah, you can reach me at that number. Has my email, my LinkedIn, everything like that.
This is perfect. I'm personally looking forward to connecting offline. I have some more questions to ask you. On behalf of the city, of course, the Vaughan Chamber, thank you for spending the time with us. This was a great resource, and I'm glad that you gave us the demo, because I know I'm going to be playing around with it, so I'm sure others will that are on this call. So Stephen, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Happy to present this awesome new product from our department. Cheers, everybody.
Have a great day, okay?
Likewise.
Yeah. That was awesome, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. I know there's a lot of realtors on this call, investors, developers. This is a fantastic resource. I'm already thinking of the ways that I can use it for my own business. And this was the first time I was being introduced to it. So very exciting stuff. And now I'd like to welcome Mary Grace Tatangelo and Vivian Reeci for our last panel discussion on what entrepreneurs are doing in today's market to succeed. So first and foremost, Mary Grace Tatangelo is a resident of Vaughan and is a mortgage agent with Pillrock Mortgages, the Mortgage Center. Mary Grace's professional career has included an array of customer service senior roles. She joined the banking industry in 2008 as a mortgage specialist with one of the largest institutions in Canada. She moved to the Mortgage Center brand in 2012 as a mortgage agent. Mary Grace is dedicated to improving the mortgage industry by providing education-based financing advice. She empowers her clients to make informed decisions about their mortgage and finances. Mary Grace is an active member of the Vaughan community and has served as a volunteer with many organizations, most notably as past president of Hospice Vaughan. She's worked tirelessly to raise funds and build Vaughan's first hospice and palliative care center of excellence, a first in our community. For many of you, our second panelist needs no introduction. Vivian Reeci is a leader in Vaughan's business community. Inspired by her vision of becoming a successful female entrepreneur, Vivian Reeci founded Your Community Realty and grew to be one of Canada's #1 real estate franchise companies. Leading by example with her people-first approach, Vivian nurtured and grew her brokerage from a small business to a market-dominating powerhouse. Today, Vivian is the author of her latest book, Yes, You Can, where she shares her journey encompassing motherhood in a highly competitive real estate world with honesty, humor, and courage. In addition to running her successful brokerage business, being a speaker, and writing a book, Vivian dedicates her time, energy, and resources to helping over 30+ charities and causes each year and inspiring others to reach their potential. Over the years, Vivian has been honored with several industry-related awards, including the prestigious Vaughan Chamber of Commerce Philanthropic Business Person of the Year Award in 2012, the Order of Vaughan Award in 2016, Vaughan Chamber of Commerce Women of Excellence Award in 2018. Vivian stands behind her brand promise, people come first, and it shows. And just off the record, I know both of these ladies. I'm so thrilled to have them. I'm excited about this panel. So welcome, Mary Grace and Vivian.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. So you're successful entrepreneurs, both of you, and I've had the pleasure of meeting you both and speaking with you, and Vivian, hearing you on stage as well. So times have changed, right? Have they not?
They have.
So we're going to work off each other here. I remind the audience, you have any questions for these successful entrepreneurs, just post them in the Q&A below. And let's get right into it. So what are entrepreneurs doing to succeed in today's market? And let's start off with the real estate segment. How has COVID-19 affected the real estate market? Maybe we'll start off. Yeah, whoever wants to start off.
Well, I'll start with Mary Grace. She was introduced first. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Vivian. Matthew, by the way, I just want to point out that you've been doing a great job moderating this event today. So kudos to you.
Very good. Yes.
So yeah, it's definitely been a challenging few months. I mean, I guess when COVID first started, more on the lending side, we didn't really know what was going to happen because a lot of our I work with over 40 lenders, and most of our lenders were still paper-based and, meet the client and get signatures. So, it was kind of up in the air what was going to happen, but they quickly, what took the industry over 10 years just to get people working from home and going digital, literally they managed to do it in 2 weeks. So that was fantastic news for the whole mortgage broker industry. And for me, myself, I found technology has really increased my business. I quickly moved over to Microsoft Teams meetings and Zoom meetings with my clients. I reach out to my clients regularly, especially if they're looking to purchase a home. We are on virtual calls during pre-approval stage, while they're shopping, post mortgage approval, up to right after their closing. So I've received excellent feedback from clients. So it's like virtually meet. I don't know if anybody's gone on to my website, but I did post a video on how it would sort of look like. But clients meet with me virtually as if they were meeting with me in my own office. So they would see the application, they will see their credit bureaus, and we work together to show the numbers to see if they qualify for a mortgage or how they can qualify for a mortgage.
Awesome. I couldn't agree with you more. It was like getting e-signatures was like pulling teeth with lenders, and then all of a sudden, just like that.
Yeah.
It only took a global pandemic. It's all.
Yeah, seriously.
Vivian, I want to ask you that same question. Being the real estate mogul that you are, like, how has COVID-19 affected the real estate market?
Well, good morning, Matthew, and good morning, all. It's a pleasure to be here. It's so exciting to be here. And who would have thought a year ago we would be on a screen having meetings for the City of Vaughan? I mean, it's something that we could have never imagined, but here we are, we're doing it. We very much the same as the mortgage industry. As realtors, luckily we already had our systems in place, but humans, we like to resist. We don't want change, right? So no. They didn't like the electronic signatures. Didn't matter what we did. A lot of people didn't like to get, their clients to sign electronically. But that was just a small portion. It was the psychology of taking everything out of the office and moving home. And it was almost to the point of we were taking the life out of the office. And that was very hard psychologically on all of us, especially myself. And but we snapped to it within 24 hours. We plugged our phones in and we were virtual. Immediately communicated. And luckily, we already had the checks and balances in place. And then we quickly jumped into this amazing virtual meeting platform where we've conducted our meetings, first of all, with each other. I think that was the biggest part is, well, everything came to a standstill. Nobody wanted to go look at houses, did they? Nobody wanted anybody in their home. Like, you know, all of our showings came to a complete halt, and clients were taking their properties off the market. So realtors were thinking, well, that's it. You know, we're done for the year. Clients, their plans were dropping. They had changed their plans. So there's a lot of uncertainty. So we had to rebuild that platform within ourselves and started to come up with different ways of doing our business. Virtual showings. We did a lot of, we even did virtual open houses, which was fantastic. Here we are, realtors started going on the web and advertising virtual open houses. And they were actually bringing people through, which caused a lot of people to go on, because what else were people doing other than having their phones, clicking away? So they had a lot of time on their hands to go house hunting. You know, even if it was just to watch and to see the decor, it didn't matter. People were on the internet a lot more. So we were able to rebuild that confidence. And once the confidence level started to be rebuilt, then people started putting their homes on the market again. But what we did is we were doing a lot more virtual, and only when the client was very serious about that home would we book that appointment and actually take the client out to look at the house. And I'll never forget the first appointments. People were so afraid, you know, hand sanitizers, gloves, booties, you know, you name it, only 2 people in at a time. But we did it. We did it. We made it work, and we're still doing it. We're still doing it. So what was foreign to us has now become the new norm. It is the new norm. And I have to say, I'm so proud. I'm so proud of the realtors, how they adjusted, how they changed the way they were doing business for years to the way they're doing business now, not only just for themselves, but for the client. How they were able to walk the client through and assure the client that this is going to be okay. We can actually do this and get you to where you want to be. I've had agents this year that have had their best year ever. Believe it or not, and this is not, you can't make this up. They have had their best year ever. Why? It's called service, and it's called thinking out of the box. So I find that, you know, this is going to be the new norm for a while, and it's allowed us to even launch pre-construction projects virtually, which we have done successfully, and even sold out projects virtually via Zoom and electronic signature. So we're very, very happy to see that the whole industry, as well as our clients and people pull together, and we're doing what we were doing before, if not better.
That's amazing. And there's a couple of themes in what you both said. Obviously, the emergence of, or I should say, embracing technology, right? And remaining competitive in the marketplace. But also, again, the topic is, how do you become a successful entrepreneur? You both adapted, and you both embrace this technology, embrace this new way of doing things. I've watched the video you're referring to, Mary Grace, and it's perfect, because there's a lot of people now in certain markets applying for mortgages directly through ATM machines, which boggles my mind, because you're missing that personal touch and that education piece that comes with it. And then Vivian, on the real estate side, things like virtual tours, things like 3D tours, and now we're seeing even the 4D, the implementation of 4D. I know Real Tours has some exciting technology coming up with John Amendola there. So
we use them all the time. They're fantastic.
Yeah, and I totally believe what you're saying about your agents being having their most successful year yet, because that is the case with us. I believe that's the case with a lot of business owners who saw this as an opportunity to not have their best careers or best year yet, but to become more valuable to their clients during this time. You're both here. You're both here because of your clients, because of the value you provide, and it's really exciting. So one thing that I talk about with my clients is I want to see what happens with the unemployment rate. Obviously, COVID has impacted a lot of businesses. A lot of people are out of jobs. So how do you see the future of disposable income, and how does this affect the real estate market? Because we haven't really seen our real estate market come down during COVID. We've seen obviously a increase in supply in Toronto condos, and obviously rents have come down, but on a large scale, the real estate market is doing well. What are your takes on this? Maybe Vivian, you could answer this one first.
Well, from my experience, how we see the real estate market is people have been confined in their homes. So their home has become more than just a home. It's become an office, school, a vacation location. It's a gym. Everything's happening in the home. So the home is become more than just a home. So a lot of people have decided to either renovate, but they're reinvesting in their living space or moving into larger homes, more backyards, things that they would never think that were of value them to before because they were busy doing other things. Now it's become investing in their home. And this is what's happening. And it's happened right through since I would say May, when everything started opening up again. You started seeing this flood of people going out, buying, moving into larger homes, or, again, it's always investing in their home. So that's what I've been seeing. It's been consistent and continuously going up.
Yeah. Mary Grace, same question. Well, what do you?
Yeah, I echo the same thing. I find that, obviously everybody's been impacted by COVID, and people have taken a different perspective on their life, and they look at what's valuable to them. And I agree with Vivian. Refinances have skyrocketed through the roof. As far as employment, I have to say that, like, I reached out to all my clients when COVID first, and we were in lockdown, just to advise, people were very confused about the deferral payments and whether they should defer their payments. I think what happened when we were in lockdown, people panicked and thought that was what they had to do, was defer their mortgage payments, even though they were employed. Mm-hmm. So as far as my clients and my database, everyone seems to be okay, and they've been stable with income. Their jobs haven't been affected, thankfully. I do have a few people that have been impacted. Their business has been impacted greatly. So I think as long as we keep the employment rate stable, then we should, we'll continue to see real estate market increase, mortgage refinances and purchases. So I think as long as obviously income is the number one factor. This, Matthew, to apply for a mortgage, you need income. So as long as the employment rate is stable, then we should be good for 2021.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I share the same comments. So it's funny, Vivian, you mentioned about the bigger spaces. I had some clients saying, you got to get me out of this house. I need a bigger house to get away from my family. And then Mary Grace, same thing at the beginning of COVID. And you mentioned this the other day on our call, rightfully so. Like, there was so much uncertainty. There still is. From a lender's perspective, from a borrower's perspective, I know in April, our real estate clients that had already put offers on properties, their mortgage was now potentially in jeopardy because there was so much uncertainty with the job market. Luckily, we were able to help them and obviously ask all of our clients, do you need help? Do you actually need a mortgage deferral? What does it mean? And there's a lot of people today that still don't know what it means and how it impacts their mortgage. So good on you for doing that.
Can I add something? But we also saw, from what statistics that we're looking at through Royal LePage, because I communicate with them and they're always doing their studies and stats, that prior to COVID, Canadians used to save approximately 2 to 3% of disposable income. Well, during COVID, or right after the COVID 2020, it jumped up to 28.2% of disposable income was being saved. You think, how could that be, right? Well, I think what happened there was people stopped spending because they couldn't spend. They couldn't go out. They couldn't shop. They weren't going on vacations. They weren't buying clothing the way they would normally be buying. Like, look at all the fundraisers we'd be going to at this time, right? Like back to back. And so we weren't doing that. And that's what happened. So it created this abundance of disposable income that people were saving. And that's when they started reinvesting that into their homes, real estate.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's important, like, we want to stimulate the economy with spending, but because of the uniqueness of the shutdown, we couldn't, right? So a question regarding, the Vaughan is obviously, we learned today and we see it is undergoing a huge change. And how do you see the condo market, specifically the Vaughan condo market, in the years to come? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, well, I'm just going to answer that quickly, and I don't mind, Mary Grace, you can help me out here, because I think we're dealing with this every day together from a different level. See, we can't work without each other. I need Mary Grace for the cash. Help us close the sales, right? So we really do work. We really have to really be on the same mindset. Well, obviously, the beginning of the year, there's been an abundance of condos on the market. And there was so many new releases this year that hit the GTA market. Plus, there were a lot of condos that had been sold previous years that were all coming up to occupancy and registration. So you've got this flood of an inventory on the market. And the rental market slowed down because of the immigration. So they shut the borders. Airbnb was affected on short-term rentals. Students weren't coming over because of the shutdown. So you've got this huge rental market that was affected, and our investors that were depending on that rental market that would have been buying more of the new releases were a little shy. They held back. So that's, in my viewpoint, it's affected the condo market for now, but it's a short term. It's going to be something that it's going to be, it'll play out. And I believe it should be probably by next spring, summer, we'll be able to see equalization on that inventory.
Hope so.
Yeah.
Mary, the same question to you, please.
Yeah, I agree. I think the stabilization of the condo market, especially here in Vaughan, I mean, we're a growing city. You can see the development that's going around. I mean, Highway 7 has completely transformed, and it's going to continue to transform. Like, I was driving at night near that whole Walmart KPMG area, and it's a beautiful landscape when all the lights are on. It's a little mini downtown, and it's gorgeous. So I do see that the condo market is going to take off again. There's a market for condos. Not everybody has a family. There's a lot of young professionals that are starting their families late. It's a great entry point for young millennials, or what they called the Gen Zs, right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
better, don't worry about that.
it's still a great entry point. The condo market is, I think it's still a favorable place to start, as well as a lot of people are downsizing. Vaughan has a lot of big, square footage homes, and I find that older people seniors are downsizing. So they're liquidating
Larger units, right? Don't you find that they're going for the larger units? That's what they're going towards. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think right now it was a little bit shaky. I think it's more so in Toronto than us, right, Vivian?
I agree. And Vaughan, I have to say, you hit it right on the nails. It is so unique that you've got the subway, you've got the new hospital, you've got all the infrastructure, and it's affordable, and there's everything. If you need anything, you go to Vaughan. Everything's in Vaughan. Any shopping, any specialty foods, everything's in Vaughan. So it's become a hub. It's actually become a very unique location that it's different from the rest of the GTA. It is.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you both respectively, Mary Grace, first to you. So how do we compare to last year this time from a mortgage perspective, I guess I would say a lending perspective? We talked about the other day how the guidelines and criteria for qualifying for a mortgage have changed. Can you speak to us about that?
Yeah, definitely the landscape of lending criteria has definitely changed. Number one question the lenders ask is, how have you been affected by COVID? Have you been affected by COVID? Mm-hmm. So majority of people were affected by COVID during the lockdown, because we were all in lockdown. Some people didn't return to work until months later. So the lender is definitely asking those questions. If you've collected CERB, if you have mortgage deferral payments, like lenders will not advance funds unless your mortgage is off the deferral program. So there's certainly some different lending criteria. I think what's happened is the lenders, once COVID hit, there's some lenders experienced over 40% of deferral mortgage payments. So, I mean, as much as, you know, our large institutions underwriting is very stringent, they just want to make sure that their clients are able to afford and pay their bills, right? In an event something like this happens again. So luckily, you know, it turned out better than what we all expected. Just speaking to some of my lenders, you know, most people have resumed payments with their mortgage. Most people haven't defaulted on their mortgage, so it's good. So I think they are taking extra precautions when it comes to extending credit. You're seeing a little more down payment. Exceptions aren't there as much as there used to be. So they're definitely looking at, in my term, it's called TDS, which is your total debt servicing. They want to ensure that people can really afford the debt.
Awesome, yeah, and rightfully so. So much uncertainty in the market. That could cause a bigger problem, of course, if not taken care of. And Vivian, I want to ask you the same question. So how do you
Absolutely.
compare?
Well, you know, overall, it's been fantastic. And I can't make it up. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves, right? We're up, our house pricing is up 8.5% in the GTA. 8.5%, where normally it would be 5%. And that is pretty fantastic because that was not what they were predicting when COVID-19 first came into effect. So, you know, the results speak for themselves, right? And that's, I think, mainly due to the low interest rate. And, you know, the banks, you know, helped the economy by lowering their interest rate. If you remember, I think it was 2017, 2018, when they introduced the stress test. Well, they did that because they thought, well, we want to slow the market down. You know, why? Well, in case of rate, we're going to push the rates up and we want to make sure these folks can make those payments when those rates come up. Well, that didn't happen because COVID-19 kicked in. So they weren't going to raise the rates. They lowered the rates. And with that, the first time buyers came into the market. They flooded into the market and started buying their first home. And what that did is it pushed the secondary people, the ones that had the first and second child, to move up into their secondary property. So what the end result there is an increase overall, 8.5%.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And on the topic of what entrepreneurs are doing today in the market to succeed, what would be a couple or a few suggestions for everybody listening? We have 120 participants right now listening, and some of them may not be necessarily having a successful year with all the challenges. What would you say to those people right now listening on this webinar?
I would say you need to learn how to pivot. You definitely need to I mean, even reach out to your own colleagues and see what they're doing in their business. I think that you have to be willing to look outside the box and, you know, although it's scary and you may not have the skill set, you got to learn the skill set. And we're all new at this. I mean, when this first happened, we were all new at Zoom and technology. So you got to dive in and jump in, otherwise you'll be left behind. I do know that when COVID first hit, there were people that people took this time as a vacation, whereas I mean, I can tell you for myself, I did not stop a single day. I woke up every morning like I normally did. I sat at my desk. My husband would leave at 8 in the morning or 7:30 in the morning. I needed to be home at 5 and I'd still be at my desk as if it was a regular day. So you have to be willing to, you know, put in the time. And unfortunately, yes, there's a lot of uncertainty in what's going to happen in a lot of these businesses, but you'll start seeing some businesses, they've learned to pivot and figure out ways to stay relevant, and upgrade your skills if you have to. Now is the time to do that. We have the time, we have the resources. I'm sure with the City of Vaughan, Vaughan Chamber has offered many different events to upgrade our skills, and you just have to be willing to do that.
Amazing.
True. Yeah.
I
agree. Mary Grace, you know, hit the nail on the head. You've got to learn how to change the way you do business. You know, you've got to look within. Actually, is look within and say, okay, what do I need to do to improve my services? What do my clients need? What are their needs? It's not just about you. You know, a lot of people, as Mary Grace said, took it as a vacation. They all they did is watch CNN or watch the news and got, you know, hysterical over the numbers. Well, the numbers are going to be there. And that's not what that was meant to do. That was meant for you to start working on your skills and bettering your skills. And I remember the first Zoom meeting we had with our agents, we had a whole screen full of people and they looked devastated. I thought, oh my God, I can't believe these are my people. I thought,
Yeah.
what's going on? And my heart broke just watching their faces. So I realized that they needed to do something. They needed to call people. So what I would say is pick up the phone and call your clients and just say, hey, how are you doing? You know, how's your family? Just call people, connect with people. You know, it's really important that we do that and then start looking at how you can better your skills to service those people. Maybe they don't need you today. Maybe they need you more today, but you won't know that unless you call them. So yes, we rely on technology, but we also need to speak to people. So I really encourage my people is to get on the phone and call your clients, call your customers, and meet with like-minded people. Brainstorm, you know, have these meetings. We had tons of these meetings. It's all we did all day. And going back to what Mary Grace said, I worked longer hours then than I do now. It was like nonstop. I would fall off my chair. When I finished my last Zoom, I thought, I can't believe my eyes were blinking because it was an all day thing and time just flew by. So meeting people, talking to people, bettering your skills. There's so many opportunities that are out there now with technology that you can learn and do more than what's expected of you. I've always maintained that. Do more than what's expected. People will notice and your customers will come back to you. And you know, work within that realm, but make sure you give them the service that they need.
100%.
Yeah.
I echo both of your statements. Amazing. And one of the things we did during the shutdowns, I would say, is we were no longer able to go into schools and provide financial literacy to the schools. We were starting to do some virtual stuff, but it was very, very difficult. So we decided to invest in our online platform. And that online platform to, you know, just from your home, you can take a course on whatever topic and just educate yourself, because I strongly believe in that. And I know both of you do as well. So you're absolutely right. So many good points and all that. And one last thing before we leave off, what do you want to leave our audience with? One takeaway I know there were so many golden nuggets in this whole seminar today, but what would you want to leave them with? Mary Grace, we'll start with you. Vivian, same question after.
Yeah, so I mean, I've attended a lot of these Zoom calls between City of Vaughan and Vaughan Chamber. We live in a great city, and it's amazing how many resources we have. There's been a lot of resources for businesses, business owners, entrepreneurs. Like I said earlier, reach out to people, maybe your own colleagues or people in your field for advice. But I do believe this could be a great opportunity for businesses. Just have to think outside the box. I don't know what outside the box, but speaking with people and seeing the needs of what people need for your particular business, you have to reinvent yourself. These are the signs of the times. And yes, it's taken a global pandemic for us to search within ourselves and seek advice and change our whole mindsets, but it's all for the better. I really believe that. I think that we have an amazing city with a lot of resources. We just need to tap into them. So like this event that is free, it's amazing to see I think there was 140 registrants as of yesterday. So it's amazing that the Vaughan is really trying hard to reach out to the residents, and people just need to take advantage of all these great, insightful events and opportunities to grow their business and help their business for sure.
I agree. Vivian?
Absolutely. I echo what Mary Grace says. I think, you know, a lot of people are afraid to ask for help. And I think that they should ask for help. Just, you know, reach out and ask for assistance, ask for help, ask to speak to someone that you feel that you can open up to, and you wouldn't believe what will happen. All of a sudden you're talking about things and you yourself may have that idea, within you, and you're just, you haven't been able to express it. And then all of a sudden you're saying something that's very unique and very creative, and not worry about what people are going to think about you, because that's what we probably do half the time, say, oh, I don't really matter, what I think doesn't matter. It does matter. It really does matter. So being around like-minded people, asking for help and sharing ideas, because I think everybody's got some great ideas. It's just a matter of extracting those ideas and coming up with solutions. That's what I would leave people with today.
Amazing, amazing. I agree. I love hearing you both. This was awesome for me. I hope it was as insightful for everyone else as it was for me. Where can our audience members reach you both at?
Well, I have a website. It's very easy. It's www.marygrace.ca. You can see my content there. All my information, my contact information is there. I'm easily accessible through my phone, my cell phone, via text, and on my social media platforms as well. So I respond fairly quickly to any messages. So I do encourage people to ask questions. For myself, I always tell clients, it doesn't matter if you're my client or not. If you have a question, I'm willing to educate. I'm willing to advise. So whether obviously I'd love for you to get a mortgage with me, but you don't, I'm willing to show you the way. So take advantage of people's goodness. If they're willing to help, take advantage of it. Cause I know Vivian, you're very similar to, we have the very similar business sense, and even you yourself, Matthew, like, all the extra things you do with the financial literacy, these resources, we've made these resources available for people. People just sometimes are shy to ask us, but they shouldn't, because that's what we're here for.
So right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm here in my office, 8854 Yonge Street. You can pop in, but you have to wear a mask. And you can reach me, you can email me at vivianreeci@gmail.com. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. And going back to Mary Grace's line, you don't have to work for me to call out if you want to talk about something or just brainstorm. I'm always available just to even brainstorm with people from different companies and different lines of businesses, because we all learn from each other. So yeah, I'm available anytime. And I'm usually very quick at responding, and I invite you to give me a call, and hey, maybe you've got an idea that you can share with me about my business and make my business get even better. So I'm happy to hear from anyone at any time.
Yeah, and you've both been generous. Every time I've seen you in person, we've always had good conversations. So I appreciate both of your time. Obviously, on behalf of the City of Vaughan, thank you to both of you. On behalf of the Vaughan Chamber, thank you to both of you. Will we be seeing both of you at the award ceremony next week?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. And we will see you tomorrow.
Okay, we'll see you tomorrow.
Greatly appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Matthew. See you later, Mary Grace. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
And whoever else is on the call, all of our participants, we just want to remind you that we are starting tomorrow bright and early at 8:30 a.m., day 2 of the conference. And I hope you enjoyed day 1. I'm super pumped for day 2, and I learned so much today, and I hope you did as well. So thank you very much. As a reminder, the Vaughan Business Achievement Awards next week on November 18th. Get your tickets. Over 450 tickets have been purchased, and we hope to see you all there. Again, my name is Matthew from Millennials Choice, and I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you.